All right, so I've done my horizontal lines very lightly for my bricks, and then I'm going to do some vertical lines to separate where my bricks are. And remember, your bricks are long rectangles, not short squares. Then they're in a staggered position, so I'm gonna go in and put lines in between that first row, very similar to a half drop pattern. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for the next row. And I can use my ruler to line them up so that my spacing doesn't change from row to row. Okay, now this isn't all you have to do in order to make sure you have a brick texture, because right now there's no texture being shown. It's just rectangles, okay, just a bunch of different shapes. So in order to add the texture, I have to go through and add a little bit of value to my brick. So I'm just gonna shade this guy in. The undersides and the bottom portion is gonna be a little dark. Once I get towards my top, it might be a little lighter, just so that I can get some different tones, some different dimension in my bricks. Okay, now notice when I do this, I go one brick at a time. I'm not going to shade the whole thing. So I got my value tone in for my first brick. My underside is darker. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the next brick. And this way too, your bricks don't blend in with each other when you add value to them individually. Nice light tone, gradually gets darker. And I'm going to continue to do this for all of my bricks. Okay, once you have your value tones in there, you are then going to add your texture marks. Okay, so I have two options to do my textures with my brick. I can either choose to use lines or I can choose to use a stippling technique. So what I'm going to do is I like to use the lines. So I go in and add lines for my brick. And then in my lighter tone area, I put fewer lines, okay? And the other option would be to stipple your bricks. So you would start out the same way. Shade my brick in, nice and light. Bottom of my brick still going to be darker. Left side of my brick is still going to be darker. So I get some kind of dimension in there. So if I wanted to stipple them, I would do the same thing, only I would put little dots, okay? Personally, I prefer the look of the lines as opposed to dots, but it's your brick, so you are free to decide which tone you want, okay? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna fill in my bricks and I'm gonna continue to add value. And then at the very end, when I'm done shading and adding the textures to my bricks, I'll go in and then I'll go over the grout lines and make them darker. So I'll go back over these lines with heavier pressure on my pencil. To define the shape of my bricks here a little bit. And then you can see I've chosen to round out the corners of my bricks, which is entirely up to you. You may decide that that's not your bag and you don't want your bricks to look that way, and that's perfectly fine, because it's entirely up to you.